Hello, Internet. I wanted to share a story of the first time that I believe I saw a ghost. I was sitting on the couch in my parents' basement with my partner Anastasia. We were living in my parents' basement at the time. This was about 10 years ago. And my sister, her room was in the basement, and our room was on the other side, and the living room was kind of like in front of both rooms. So my sister came down the stairs and turned to go into her room, and I saw what looked like sort of a shadow following behind her. It didn't look like an actual person. It looked like kind of blurry and like no defined features, just fully shadow. And they were pretty tall and they were pretty like thin, and they were very just like kind of doing like this behind her. And at first I thought maybe I was just seeing things because, that's a crazy thing to see. But I was, like I said, I was sitting with my partner on the couch, and we weren't watching TV or anything. We were just sitting there. And I turned to her and I was like, "Hey, did you see that?" And she was like, "Yeah, I saw it." And immediately she knew what I was talking about. And we immediately were like, "Whoa, this is kind of weird. We should probably tell my sister." So we went into her room and we were like, "Hey, just so you know, we think we saw something kind of like following you when you went into your room." And her eyes immediately like filled up with tears. And she was like, "Yeah, I know." And this was sort of like part of a larger theme in my sister's life, where for a while when she was younger, she always had experiences similar to that, where there was sort of this entity that was following her and sort of protecting her, she thought, or just kind of always around. And for lots of different reasons, we think it might have been our grandpa that we never met because he died before we were born. But, that's all a whole other thing. But ever since I was a kid, ghosts were my biggest fear. And I always was so afraid of ghosts. Partially because of these videos I saw on ebombsworld.com, for anyone who knows what that website is. There were these like urban legend videos that played this like creepy music and showed pictures, and there was one specifically about ghosts. And I'm sure a lot of the things in that video were fake. I was very young when I watched this, but after that, that's when I really started to establish my fear of ghosts, and I slept with my lights on completely for like 2 years after that, like when I was like in elementary school. So, and I think just, I've always sort of had very existential thoughts, even since I was like a young kid. So, ghosts are like the kind of the perfect thing to think about in that context, because it's like, what, is that real? If that's real, like what the hell is life? All this stuff. So, it kind of like perfectly, the fear of ghosts kind of perfectly preyed on the type of mind that I had as a kid and still have now as an adult. But now I think I'm more accepting that I don't know, and also open to possibilities. So like, my partner is Native American, so she has a lot of different practices with like, spirits and stuff. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to speak on Native practices, but being with her has definitely made it a little less scary to think about like the afterlife and ghosts and like spirits and stuff like that, because it almost puts it into more of like a practical lens, if that makes sense. It might not make sense. It doesn't fully make sense to me, and honestly I feel like I'm not that personally connected to any sort of like spiritual realm. I think sometimes I think I see things, but like, because I wear glasses, sometimes that kind of like skews my peripheral vision, or like my hair sometimes, like I'll think I see things, but it's probably just my hair. So there's a lot of times where I mean, that might have not even been, the story I told about my sister, that might have not been like the actual first time I thought I saw a ghost or something like that, but that was one where it felt very real. It felt the most real. And it sort of kind of made me believe things a little bit more. I'll tell one little bonus story. When I was living in Brooklyn, it was me, my girlfriend, and two other roommates. And But we were all kind of experiencing some weird things in the apartment, like things would be falling down, or just like our roommate's dog would just stare at one corner and just bark for like a long time. We couldn't see anything there. People have theories that like pets can see spirits or animals or whatever. So lots of weird things happen, but we sort of, all three of us, well, three of the four of us vocalized like, hey, if there's another energy living here, we understand that we are sharing the space and we hope that we can like coexist here kind of thing. And a couple other things to make the presence known that we weren't trying to harm it in any way, in hopes that it wouldn't try to harm us in any way, and we can just live, we can just coexist in the space, basically. And one of our roommates didn't do that for a while. And one day I was home alone. I came home from work, and I came home from somewhere, and I was the first person to be home. And I was walking back to my room, and just for a quick heads up, like the apartment was like this big room, and then in the back there was like 3 bedrooms. So I had to walk past every single room basically to get to my bedroom. And when I walked past my roommate's room, there was a woman sitting on the bed wearing like mostly black clothes, had like long black hair, and she was sitting like cross-legged, and she had her hand on her chin. And she was just like sitting on the edge of the bed. Now this was very different from the first story that I told. This was like a fully formed person. Like, it looked like a real person was sitting there. And that is what freaked me out even more. But it also made me feel like, again, it was like, wow, this shit is fucking real. Like, and I'm a pretty skeptical person. Like, I didn't always immediately believe that ghosts were real or spirits. Like, I still don't even know what I believe, but I'm not one to just, like, not question things. So even some of the things that happened in our apartment before this, I was like, maybe the window was open, so it blew it over, like that kind of stuff. But this was very undeniable. And this is like a core memory for me when it comes to like ghosts and like the spirit world and stuff. I really like won't forget that. That was the most real, like visually, I've ever seen anything like that. So, but I don't know. Maybe, who knows? I don't even know. I still really don't know. It could have been fake. It could have been anything. But I just kind of wanted to come on here and share those stories. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.